All right, recapping for all you who are in absent and in video land, and for all of you who are actually here, we're going to look at a confidence interval for p hat. But whenever you hear the word confidence interval, you know you're going to have to check RIN. Sometimes that takes as much time as doing the problem, but it is important to do RIN. That's a random, independent, and normal. So when we do that, when we're looking for p hat, an interval, confidence interval for p hat, can you complete that statement, Maggie?
Are you doing like the basic, like the critical value
Yeah.
times?
So what is the critical value with p hat? Something star.
Oh, z star.
Z star, and then something, there's always a square root, but in p hat land, it's a bigger square root.
Is it p times 1 minus p over n?
Almost, except there, put your hat. Okay, there you go. So that, and then we learned that this was called, had a special name. Kevin, do you remember the special name we gave just that section? It was a little new to us on Thursday.
Green sheet. It was standard error when
Right, standard error. Allow me to abbreviate. Do you recall then, Joel, what this whole part was called? That was not new to us. I'm sorry to be bratty about this, but they will ask you these kind of questions. And they're not that hard if you know what they mean. So standard of error is just that one part.
Standard deviation?
It is a standard deviation if it wasn't coming from a sample. No, just this was standard deviation.
Okay.
So from the very first day, we started with a point estimate, Joel, and we went up and back this. That's
Mean error?
margin.
Margin of error.
Okay. All right. So margin of error, you can write out the whole word on your paper. So it's the margin of error, the whole thing, and part of it's a standard error. So get it right. Oh. And the whole thing is a confidence interval. So we've got all the parts. This has also been called the critical value, Z star. All right. So putting that aside. Oh no, not putting it aside. We gave it a name. What was the name? Bree?
Todd.
The name of what?
Billy.
This whole thing. I'm starting.
One sample deviation D.
One sample Z what?
Oh, I said something different.
Interval for P. So that's what
Is
we're
it P
trying
or
to
P
get.
hat?
It's for P. Because that's what we're trying to estimate. So if you put p hat in that definition, take it off. All right. Then, so that was one whole section. So we're kind of pulling it together here. So let's go and do the same thing except for mu. So I want a let's say, for mu, we'll say standard deviation is known. We didn't even do one of these for real. We just did the theory. So Shannon, this is a one sample Z interval.
Isn't it a T interval?
This one is Z when you know standard deviation,
Okay.
which is kind of weird.
With an M.
All right, for mu. All right, so we're going to check RIN always. And then, can you start us off?
Yeah, so it's x bar plus or minus z star times the standard deviation over the square root of n.
Very good. All right, so Shannon, where's the standard of error now?
It's just the standard deviation over the square root of n.
Yeah, that's SE. This is still margin of error. ME, and the whole thing is the confidence interval, so follows in suit. All right, the next thing, when standard deviation is not known,
T is only for when you don't know standard deviation.
check RIN, but then it changes up. So Andrew, what's the changes now that standard deviation is unknown? There are two cases for X bar. One is when the standard deviation
Okay, when it's
is not-
unknown, you do
x bar plus or minus c star times s sub x, which is the samples distribution,
Yeah, standard deviation.
right? Over the square root of n.
All right, so now we have SE right here. Standard error. Okay, actually, I made a little boo-boo up there. Anyone see what it is?
Put your hands up.
One boo-boo.
Um,
It's called standard error
Oh.
when the information about the proportion, the information in the standard error comes from the sample. So this comes from the sample, this comes from the sample, or did this come from the sample?
No.
No, this is not a standard error in this case. So I'm sorry. I misled you. All right, this is a standard of error because information in it came from the sample. And this one, p hat, came from the sample. So that is standard
of error. Or
standard of error. Yeah. Or is it standard error? I think it's
I think it's
no,
standard
it's
error.
not- I think it's standard error.
yeah.
Standard error, not standard of error. Okay. All right, I had a question for you. And Morgan asked this question the other day, and I answered her, but I'm not sure everyone heard it, and I'm not sure if you could answer it now or not. So I wanted to clarify it. The question is, we're checking RIN and N inside of RIN every time. So I'm most interested in this one, and it says if the sample is normal, we can continue. So why, if it's normal, if the sample is normal, why don't we use Z star, which is for the normal chart A? Why do we switch to T star, chart B, if we already checked and saw that the sample is normal? Did you hear our answer, ask that? I don't think everyone heard her. We were discussing something else and she kind of asked it on the side. So I'm asking you, if it's normal, why are we switching to T star? And the answer is because the sample, it does have a normal distribution, or near enough that we're happy. So the sample is normal. But what isn't normal is when we actually distribute this, we look at the distribution of this, Sx over square root of n, that is the part that's not normal. So when we actually take this information and we standardize it, you know how you subtract the mean and divide by the standard deviation? It's that we have to normalize it, we have to standardize it. We always, before we can go to chart A or B, everything has been standardized. The mean has been subtracted from every value divided by a standard deviation. And when you do that with this information, using this as standard deviation, it's not normal. So the sample is normal, but the T statistic is not normal. And that's why we have to use a different chart. It has a different spread altogether. It doesn't come up as high. It's fatter in the tails. So that is why the T statistic is not normal. The sample is. So just, I don't know if you heard that. All right, that's pulling together what we've had so far.
So the T statistic is not normal.
Yeah, and that's right in our work for X bar.
Wait,
So,
I'm confused, I think.
and so that's all I can say is that the sample itself is normal, but the actual calculation that we use, when you look at the distribution of T star, it's not normal.
Why do we
because
have to
of
use
this.
T star?
Because this right here messes it up.
So that's the part that's really not normal.
Yeah, it causes the T, we could call it Z or whatever. This thing that we need for chart A doesn't work. So we had to give it another name. So to standardize anything, we have to use chart A or B. We had to take each value, X bar, minus the mean divided by standard deviation. But when we looked at this spread of this whole thing, it is not normal. It's a T, that's why we call it a T. But anyway, that won't affect your calculations. It's just more of why we're doing what we do. All right, questions about pulling these equations. These are the big players for this mod, so our chapter so far. I'll probably finish up today and we'll review for a couple days. What do you have going on Thursday as far as testing? Anything conflicting with a Thursday test?
Mr. Jones is considering giving us a test this week, but I think he said maybe Wednesday.
All right. All right, well, check in with me. I can maybe slide it to Wednesday, but it'd be hard because I'd like to have more review.
And I won't be here.
Yeah, I know. Is it start tomorrow?
Yeah.
And you'll be
tomorrow
back
through
when?
Thursday. I'll be back Friday.
Okay. All right. I'll make sure that you have the review materials before you leave today. All right.
I'm leaving today after this.
When?
After this class.
Okay. I'll have to get them together quickly. All right. Before I make the last point for this chapter, I guess you need another day. Did I give you a day? No. What's the last one? 4?
4.
Okay. Last bit of information for this chapter. It seems like you guys are understanding it. I don't know. Could be wrong.
Like, I think I understand it, and then probably we'll start reviewing and I won't.
All right.
But that's okay.
We'll see.
Miss Powell, did you go to
Thank
CFC
you.
yesterday?
See what?
Did you go to CFC yesterday?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we didn't have church chat.
Oh,
We've
yes.
been at church channel a
Yeah,
while.
we should. All right. All right, let's have a quick church chat. You can turn off the video and we'll be right back.
Talk about your
All right.
churches amongst yourselves.
All right.